Xiao Zhai Wenying inexplicably tied up a face-to-face trading system and asked her to open stores in various problematic areas as a boss to solve face-to-face problems. Not doing it. If you don't work, let your dog lead you. Zhai Wenying, who was passively the boss, could only nod hesitantly and say, "I'll do it. I'll do it." Faced with a food crisis in the apocalypse, the world of cultivation where order is about to collapse, the foreign world where ghosts and monsters are rampant, and the modern world where basic spiritual energy is constantly losing, Zhai Wenying shuttles between these planes, embarking on a diligent journey to work for the Heavenly Father. Before going to the noodle shop, Zhai Wenying said, "Be a salted fish, in a nest shop." After going, Zhai Wenying. Wave everywhere, cause trouble. Keywords of the novel. Being a boss. Is it the kind of boss who doesn't open a store and just wears a dog without pop-ups? Do you want to be a boss by downloading the complete set of TXT without opening a store? The kind of latest chapter reading that dogs bring without opening a store. Chapter 1. Apocalyptic Plane, 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Apocalyptic Plane, 1, the store location has been selected. Boss, please check the store location information. There is only one chance to select on the main page. To confirm, please press the confirm button. Pressing the confirm button, Zhai Wenying looked eagerly at the characteristic watermelon building in front of her. The faint white mist disappeared, and she walked inside. The first floor was a counter, resting tables and chairs, shelves, and an unlimited storage room that could be used to store goods. On the second floor, there is a bedroom, a study, a spacious living room, and a teleportation array. The teleportation array specifically states that only the boss can use it. The backyard still has land and houses, but they are not within the initial protection range of the cabin gifted by the system. Please accept the plane configuration. After wandering around and returning to the study, Zhai Wenying clicked on the message sent by the system and accepted the ability of this plane to assist her in completing tasks. The treatment is good, it's just a waste of life. A double-story small building, with safety guarantees, as well as wooden and invisibility abilities, is the job she dreams of as a boss selling things. But that's a plane. A plane full of danger. At first, she didn't want to, but the system threatened to take her life to work, otherwise it would have killed her. Zhai Wenying's inner attitude towards work is fear, afraid of losing her life. Is there only this amount of plain information? Yes, if necessary, you can send an email to Tiandao, who can provide some support within their capabilities. The system Milk Tea nodded. Her virtual image is a rabbit, sitting obediently and nodding, with 3 open and closed mouths, like a person wearing a doll costume. Zhai Wenying scratched her head and said, "The crisis of the apocalyptic plane. Reduced food production, insufficient supply, severe land pollution, and a decrease in the number of people with related abilities." This information may seem comprehensive at first glance, but there are no causes or consequences, making people bald. She looked at the procurement points and shopping mall gifted by the system, and found that the money was only 1,000 points, while the items in the mall had tens of thousands of pages. Zhai Wenying has been threatened by the system for her life, and now she has come here to open a store, but she has no idea about this store. "I chose this place because there are more people and fewer zombies here, and it's not a base yet." She chose spicy hot pot from the free meals given to her boss by the system, and thought about opening the store while eating. After finishing the meal, I made a plan in the study. First, I went to the nearby base to gather information, and then collected some supplies. Then, I purchased and placed the goods, and officially opened the store for business. Invisible as she walked out, she wandered towards crowded areas on the map and went into nearby houses to explore and pick up leaks. When I heard faint voices, my backpack was already packed. "Please all residents go to the central square as soon as possible, the team is about to depart." Following the signpost to the central square, Zhai Wenying saw a group of people queuing up next to several large trucks. Occasionally, with a few exceptions, she handed some food to uniformed personnel and then carried her belongings to the car ahead. After strolling around, these people looked silent, not as if they were going to pursue a better life, but rather to die. There was someone whispering in the car, but she didn't dare to get too close. Leaving the square and casually looking for a house, Zhai Wenying disguised herself in the way she had just seen those people. She took a small bag and released a portion of dried meat, then carried her hiking bag and walked towards the central square. She traded dried meat for a seat in a small truck. Under repeated emphasis from the staff, she obediently sat at the bottom of the car as soon as she got in, afraid to look around at the people and instruments inside. On the way, without a mobile phone to play with, Zhai Wenying was blown into an explosive head by the wind. Her face was paralyzed and she couldn't bear it anymore. She used her spare light to quietly scrutinize the girl beside her. Sitting with her was a very thin and frail girl, but she had drooping eyes, bangs covering her eyebrows, thin cheeks, loose hair, and a bent body. Her skinny hands were placed on both sides, grabbing her pants. Against the backdrop of her white coat, she looked somewhat gloomy and terrifying. The whole person doesn't quite match the Wenyanmin embroidered on the clothes. Without waiting for her to tilt her head a little more and look closely, she heard footsteps. The sound of dong dong was intertwined with the howling wind outside, and Zhai Wenying felt a chill in her back. She clenched her fists, intending to launch the teleportation array and run away whenever there was danger, but at this moment she keenly felt the girl beside her leaning towards her, her body still trembling. On second thought, would someone be interested in her being so fat? Various small theaters were staged in her mind, and she didn't have any free time. She used her body to cover the milk candy in her pocket and handed it to the little sister next to her. Putting the backpack on her knee, it happened to block the two people. Zhai Wenying smiled kindly at Wenyanmin, who was looking over, and said, "You can eat it secretly, they can't see it." Using Qi-yin, Wenyanmin looked at the well-packaged milk candy and then at Zhai Wenying, who had quickly stuffed a candy into her mouth. After hesitating for a moment, she still took one. Wenyanmin's furrowed brow gradually subsided, and Zhai Wenying said her purpose, "When we arrive at the base, should we two girls go find a house together?" Wenyanmin instinctively frowned and nodded in front of Zhai Wenying's expectant gaze. The car was driving very fast, with a cold wind. Zhai Wenying's heart was warm, and her animal-like intuition told her that this girl was very gentle. The car arrived at the base, and below were people queuing up to enter the base. Zhai Wenying got off the car and observed the queue. Just as she had selected the queue, she turned around and saw that the girl next to her was nowhere to be seen. There were only people selling seats to her who were moving instruments near the car. "Excuse me, where did that girl go just now? How do I know about the people in the research institute?" After a pause, the other person looked around and added in a low voice, "I was taken away by someone with a speed ability." Upon learning of this result, Zhai Wenying was somewhat unwilling and decided to go in and look for it again. The team was moving quickly, and Zhai Wenying held the spicy noodles she didn't dare to deliver at the time and placed them on the staff table. "Find the reception room at the entrance for girls' safe accommodation." Leaving behind spicy strips, receiving the sign, Zhai Wenying followed the road's guidance and walked forward. She regretted not asking clearly if there were any features in front of the reception room. "As soon as I entered, the lights inside the base flickered, causing eye pain. A dozen or so people set up a stall at the door, smiling and welcoming everyone who went to inquire. There is only one room nearby, and Zhai Wenying walked straight there. How wonderful it is to follow me every day and eat delicious and spicy food. How could such a beautiful little beauty come here to do such rough work? Get out of here. Hey, I'll get out of here and drill all over you." The flowing young man rushed up to the counter, grabbed the girl's clothes with one hand, and was so scared that Zhai Wenying picked up the big broom next to her and started beating around. "You go away. Go away." Avoiding the fireball thrown by that person, Zhai Wenying felt that magic needed to defeat magic. This psychic had to use her powers to deal with it. Even though her hands were tired from hitting the opponent, she was still using her powers. If it were a normal person, she would have been useless long ago. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Apocalyptic Plane, 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Apocalyptic Plane, 2, What are you doing? Where is Xiao? As soon as a middle-aged man came in, he disabled the young man's arm that used his powers. A unique skill that harms people out of thin air. Zhai Wenying shouted 666 in her heart. Uncle Xiao, I'm here. The girl who was almost bullied just now stood up from behind the counter, tears streaming down her face, looking very pitiful. Seeing no signs of being bullied on Li Xiaoxue, the middle-aged man looked at Zhai Wenying and the young man. He made 2 cuts at the young man, cutting the bottom first and then the top, and then hanging a rope at the door, which startled Zhai Wenying. When the middle-aged man returns, he faces 2 girls huddled in different corners. He rubbed his temples and said, "Hello, may I ask if you need anything?" Zhai Wenying looked at the uncle with a gentle expression and weakly asked, "Is renting a house okay?" "Sure, the rent is 1 primary crystal core for 5 days, and the rent will not be refunded upon check. Out." The girl on the other side was answering, and Zhai Wenying looked at her curiously. Just now, she was even more scared than herself and could answer questions. "If you don't have a crystal nucleus, you can exchange it for food." Seeing Zhai Wenying looking at her, the girl forced a smile and gave Zhai Wenying another choice. How to calculate the price of food. Zhai Wenying tugged at her backpack, including spicy strips, dried meat, lactose, milk, small bread, instant noodles, and water. It depends on the type of weighing. The smile on the girl's face became more natural as they spoke to each other. She took out a scale and carried it to the vicinity of Zhai Wenying. "You can put it on." Zhai Wenying tugged at her backpack and handed the girl a milk candy and a pack of spicy strips. "Thank you, my name is Li Xiaoxue." Zhai Wenying smiled and said, "My name is Min Yin." After exchanging names, the relationship between the two seems to have improved a bit. Li Xiaoxue glanced at Qiu Minghua standing at the door, crouched down, and whispered, "Sister Min Yin, do you have any milk?" When Li Xiaoxue watched Zhai Wenying pull out the instant noodles, it seemed like there was something like a milk packaging box in the bag. Uncle Qiu's baby is in great need. Wow, what's wrong? Before she could finish speaking, a middle-aged man who had previously pretended to be gentle suddenly appeared in front of her. "How much milk do you have and what do you want to exchange for?" Zhai Wenying was startled. "I have these and would like to exchange some information about the base and crystal nucleus." She took out a row of milk, and as soon as she finished speaking about her needs, the milk in her hand was snatched away, with a pile of information and a bag of crystal nuclei in front of her. Min-Yin's sister, do you think these are enough? If they are not enough, I will go tell Uncle Qiu and he will provide you with supplies. Li Xiaoxue is somewhat worried that Uncle Qiu's behavior will leave a bad impression on this sister. This sister has complete supplies, maybe we can tell them where they collected them. This kind of person cannot be persuaded by the official base. Enough, just how did he take it and leave? A large stack of materials on the ground, well organized, with clear entries comparable to a master's or doctoral thesis. The amount of crystal nuclei in that bag is also sufficient, even if it is all primary crystal nuclei, it is still a big profit for her. Uncle Qiu's family has a younger sister who is only a few months old and hasn't had enough milk recently, so Uncle Qiu is very anxious. Li Xiaoxue lives next door to Uncle Qiu's house, and when she left in the morning, she heard her aunt and little sister crying. Qiu Shugang just went outside to look for things that babies can eat such as milk powder, milk, and rice, but he probably couldn't find them, and those people refused to give them. How could such a large base not have rice? There are several trucks of ordinary people following this team, crowded to the brim. This base can accommodate them, but there is no rice left. What do the people in the base rely on for a living? Li Xiaoshue's cheeks were swollen with anger, but seeing Zhai Wenying's shocked and confused expression, she thought she might not know that this sister was new. The base is divided into 3 factions. Song Gu was originally the strongest, but later he was ambushed and injured. Song Gu is very kind. If it weren't for him taking him in, I would have died when my parents died. Rice and milk are from the bad uncles who refuse to give them. Song Ji's health is getting worse and worse, and those bad uncles are even more bullying. The bad uncle who wanted to bully me just now is another member of the Alliance of Mighty Ones, and they have always looked down on us. Refusing to give and not giving are 2 different things. At present, Song Ji's influence is not so stable either. Zhai Wenying began to hesitate whether or not to quietly return to her store with her belongings. Can I also give you Uncle Xiao this milk candy and dried meat? If your aunt eats well, she can have milk to feed the child. Oh, thank you, sister. Hey, don't cry. Zhai Wenying couldn't bear to see the girl cry and felt heartbroken as she looked at her. I just wanted to ask my sister, where did you find it? I didn't have anything to deceive my sister. Zhai Wenying came to introduce her store this time and said it fluently. The place where I found milk is a very special shop where you can buy anything, including milk powder and medicine. My crystal nucleus is all spent there, and I have written down the address. I originally intended to exchange information, but now I have it, so I will give it to you. Be good, don't cry anymore. If you cry again, you will be a little flower cat. Li Xiaoxue was coaxed into embarrassment. She pretended to cry, wiped her tears, smiled, and then went to the counter to get a piece of paper for Zhai Wenying. This is the map of the base, don't show it to others. This is something that can only be circulated within their team, but Sister Min Yin is an exception. After giving the map, Li Xiaoxue finally accepted the address given by Zhai Wenying with peace of mind. Okay, thank you. Zhai Wenying put the materials and crystal nucleus in her backpack and put them away. Let's use these instant noodles as rent for now. Where do I stay at night? Where do you want to live, sister? It would be safer to live near our team members' quarters, but the alarm for zombie attacks and the sound of battle would be loud at night. A quieter place near the inner city is not safe. It's better to live in a safer place. Okay, then we can go back together. Uncle Xiao should send someone to pick him up soon. Zhai Wenying was a little curious, can't we go back by ourselves? Sister, remember, you can't go out alone at any time. Until sitting in the newly rented house, Li Xiaoshue's serious and resolute voice still echoed in Zhai Wenying's mind. After reading about the information about this base, Zhai Wenying couldn't sleep at all. Stay up late at night. She put the information and map in her coat and sneaked out of the door, aiming for the research institute. There aren't many people at night, so we walk together in groups of 3 or 2. She walked straight along the signpost. The research institute covers a large area, and as soon as she approached, there were cries of sorrow one after another. Under the cold white light, Zhai Wenying felt like she had accidentally entered the ghost film scene. Click. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Apocalyptic Plane, 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Apocalyptic Plane, 3, with a loud sound, a familiar person was dragged past Zhai Wenying, walking towards her direction. Zhai Wenying was startled and looked back at the research institute, following Wen Yanmin and the others. Wen Yanmin turned even whiter, like a wandering soul. If no one were to pull her, she could fall on the spot. A person who is still fine in the afternoon, why is it like this at night? The road became more and more strange as she walked, it was back to where she stayed. Amidst her various doubts and speculations, they stopped in front of a small building. The person Xiao Gu wants has arrived. Please ask him to come out and see the sincerity of our research institute. The person guarding the entrance of the small building went in to report. Zhai Wenying saw that the door was open, but inside it was empty with a carpet, and she followed in. Inside, a person in tang attire was holding a walnut in one hand and a note in the other, closing their eyes and contemplating, as if pretending to be forced. Xiao, the research institute has sent someone over again. Jin Qizong is still struggling to survive, they are just so anxious. Xiao Jiaye sneered and looked disdainful. Maybe we can receive the news of Jin Qizong's death tomorrow. Those people are rushing to please you. Once he dies, those outside have no other choice but to rely on you. Tisk, tonight I'm still the second master, not Xiao Gu, Song Gu, I'm still alive. We all only recognize Xiao Gu. After listening to my younger brother's loyalty, Xiao Jiaye slowly stood up and walked towards the door. This half-dead appearance is not very auspicious. Xiao Jiaye glanced at the face and then lifted it with his foot to carefully examine it. The two people at the door waited in the cold wind for a while, stamping their hands and feet, and their faces were really bad. They lowered their heads to cover up, but spoke beautifully. The newcomers' actions are not of any importance, it's just that they have drawn a lot of blood. Xiao Gu, you are a first-class person. In a few days, you will take over this foundation. If you leave something behind for her, you can take care of it. Another person saw Xiao Jiaye frown and said, lucky people must dress up and send you to your new house during auspicious times. This is just an appetizer for you to enjoy. Human, I have accepted it. I am very satisfied with this face, and Xiao Jiaye has agreed to this cooperation. Hey, with your joining and the collaboration of the three giants, our base will definitely get better and better. After speaking beautifully, the two stood still in place. The new woman who came in today will be sent to the research institute tomorrow. Zhai Wenying was confused when she heard this, the new woman. It seems like Li Xiaoxue said that she came in to stay alone today, right? Okay, we're waiting for your good news. These two people left, leaving Wen Yanmin lying on the ground. Get up. Seeing Xiao Jiaye kicking Wen Yanmin in the stomach, Zhai Wenying's fist stiffened. Even after kicking a few times, Wen Yanmin didn't react. Xiao Jiaye became impatient and gestured for his younger brother to take action. Xiao Gu, the person is dead. What a bad luck. Xiao Jiaye's dismissal was like a big fireball, not even giving Zhai Wenying a chance to save her. Xiao Gu, after listening to the recording, the new woman indeed has a problem. She knows a place where there are many supplies, and she wrote down the address on paper and handed it to Li Xiaoxue. Zhai Wenying confirmed that it was her. What did Jin Qizong think? The news just came that they planned to send someone over to take a look. What is that woman doing? The door is locked and hasn't come out. Let's go and meet her. Upon hearing this, Zhai Wenying dared not take a chance and went back to retrieve supplies. She teleported directly back to her own store. Zhai Wenying, who returned to the store late at night, didn't have the mood to look at the information. She cried loudly while holding the blanket and fell asleep like this. The next day, Zhai Wenying, who had nightmares all night, carefully read the materials with two black circles under her eyes. Milk tea, can I apply to this plane's heavenly Tao to replace the wooden and invisibility abilities with invincible protective shields, which is the kind in our store? What is the probability of heavenly Tao agreeing? You can apply, the probability of passing is 0. Since we have a discussion, I will personally write a copy of my plan. Could you please send it out? Okay. At the base, facing the chaotic houses and bombed doors, Qiu Minghua's face turned dark and the people next to him were full of grievances. Xiao Gu asked us to move to another building to guard, and we dare not change. We don't know what happened last night. Li Xiaoxue and Fu Xiaowei who came together didn't look very good either. They both called Xiao Gu and said they didn't know anything. Let's go find the boss. Unauthorized mobilization of people seems to have tied them up, and Xiao Jiaye's behavior has crossed the line. Leaving the small building, Li Xiaoxue became increasingly angry as she thought about it. These people don't even consider Brother Tsong anymore. They did not follow the rules set by Brother Tsong, and when Uncle Chiu asked, he played Tai Chi to clear his responsibility. Is it a firm belief that Uncle Chiu cannot punish them? Xiu Minghua remained silent all the way, and Fu Xiaowei freed up one hand to pat Li Xiaoxue. She occasionally glanced at her silent husband, feeling very worried. She and her daughter were always a burden for her husband. Jin Chitsong was dragged down by his injuries and has been relying on traditional Chinese medicine to survive under the protection of his confidants. Xiu Minghua came over with his wife, daughter, and Li Xiaoxue, while the other brothers had a strange look in their eyes. Tsong, I have something I want to tell my brothers. Jin Chitsong understood and waved his hand. Among the 10 people surrounding him, a thin and weak man was taken down by someone next to him who covered his mouth. Tsonggu should know that I exchanged milk with a new person yesterday. She told Xiaoxue a piece of news. I checked last night and it's probably true. What news? Jin Chitsong knew about this and thought that Xiu Minghua was going to speak up for that girl. According to her, a fully stocked store suddenly appeared in the place where she was originally staying, with everything we needed inside. She suddenly disappeared last night. The second person didn't catch her. So is the store real? Fu Xiaowei was a bit excited when she heard the news. Being able to support their daughter through other channels, it's better to leave here, as those people won't be able to entangle their husbands anymore. Xiu Minghua, carrying half of the team's wealth, was about to leave. Brother Tsong, I want to give it a try, he said. The second son has a huge appetite. Those who don't have brotherhood will not be able to force it for long. Tsong, what do you mean? Brothers, if you want to leave, let's go together. Anyway, the other half of the supplies are in old second-hand stores and won't be returned. Contact others and run in batches. Jin Chitsong has been worrying about how to arrange these brothers recently. Once he dies, the base will not let go of his trusted followers who have been following him. It's better to work hard together outside than to die in a research institute. If there really was such a shop, he might be able to save his life and continue to protect these brothers. Jin Chitsong had planned many escape routes in advance, and their evacuation was very smooth this time. After most of his brothers hurriedly went out to find medicine for him, he himself, along with the families of his brothers and others who stayed to protect him, left the base underground. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Apocalyptic Plane, 4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Apocalyptic Plane, 4, Those things are cheaper than Xiaojiaye. After meeting with Jin Chitsong, Xiu Minghua felt much relieved but also a bit regretful. Evacuation is a temporary decision, and some industries have not had a chance to switch to crystal nuclei. That's all something everyone fought for with their lives. It's not certain who will end up in their hands. Xiaojiaye's advantage in controlling the other two forces lies in his life as Jin Chitsong and his brothers. Without these, his jealousy will eventually lead to his own death. Xiu Minghua was much happier when he heard this, and he drove everyone towards the address on the paper. It was the whole morning when she wrote and issued the application. Zhai Wenying had just sat down to eat the delicious spicy hot pot. The milk tea reminded her, and God replied. Well, it's not bad. I should officially open for business too. She bought an energy harvester from the crystal core that she had exchanged at the Furong City base. She held the identification instrument provided by the plane Tiandao and placed it at the door. She then set the sales mode at the counter and went back to the study, waiting for the guests to come to her door. Jin Chitsong's team only arrived at night, and in the pitch-black night, a brightly lit two-story shop stood out very prominently. The orange lights are warm, but they appear eerie in a city with only zombies left. Boss, is there any fraud? Why don't I go ahead and take a look? Jiang Zhenliang was extremely hopeful that his boss would get better soon, but the place looked too scary. Each store in the base was only allowed to turn on one light to save electricity. Xiao Minghua was also a bit scared, but Fu Xiaowei wished she could charge down. "I'll go myself first, don't argue, obey orders." Jin Chitsong got off the car alone under the disapproving gaze of his teammates. He approached the store door and saw a strange machine. There is an operation guide above, and he followed the process and quickly obtained a golden card. Holding a golden card and placing it on the counter, suddenly appeared the purchase instructions and precautions in the void. The long string looked like a pre-apocalyptic app agreement, and without a nod of agreement, one cannot proceed to the next step. Jin Chitsong's wound was in severe pain, so he decided to swipe down, click agree, and then search for the medical diagnosis he wanted in the pop-up search bar. Zhai Wenying in the backstage immediately went to the mall to purchase according to Jin Chitsong's choice. Deducting 10 trading points over there, a pile of white mist drifted out from the virtual screen here, enveloping Jin Chitsong. In less than 5 seconds, the white mist dissipated, and Jin Chitsong received 2 pieces of paper, on which were his body data report and medical treatment form. Click on the automatic dispensing option on the diagnosis and treatment form, and 2 boxes of medication appear out of thin air on the counter. Jin Chitsong swallowed 2 pills on the spot according to the doctor's instructions on the diagnosis and treatment form, and was rated as ruthless by Zhai Wenying. "Big brother, how are you?" Xiao Minghua found a vacant space and released everything in the space, and he also came in. He also held a golden card. "It's a bit more comfortable. Please pay the fees as soon as possible." The huge bold red font kept bouncing in front of Jin Chitsong, and suddenly an additional box appeared at the next counter, with 3 large characters prominently displayed at the toll area. 12 primary crystal nuclei, this price is really not cheap. When Xiao Minghua saw the amount above, he sighed inwardly with a wicked merchant. After just a while, Jin Chitsong could feel his body slowly repairing and handed over the crystal nucleus. He put the card back on and began to carefully read the outrageously long purchase instructions and precautions. "You can ask your siblings to bring the child in, and other brothers who have injuries can also come and buy some medicine." "Okay." Upon hearing these words, Xiao Minghua couldn't help but shed tears. He cried and laughed as he ran out to tell everyone the good news. Zhai Wenying suddenly heard a burst of cheers in her study. Just as she was about to go watch the excitement, the system prompted someone to enter the store. From the surveillance footage, it appears to be Fu Xiaowei and her daughter. Similarly, a medical diagnosis was ordered, but for young children, it requires 20 trading points. Please recharge in advance. This medical diagnosis requires 24 primary crystal nuclei or corresponding energy. The green card belonging to the child was flashing red, and Xiao Minghua quickly went to the cashier to recharge. He had just finished filling 30 crystal cores when Xiao Mingjia, the child over there, was enveloped in a burst of white mist. In less than 5 seconds, body data and medical records are generated. Jin Chitsong clicked on the automatic dispensing option, and 2 small bottles and several large cans of milk powder appeared on the counter out of thin air. At first, the people queuing up at the back were bewildered. After regaining their senses, they all ran to the toll booth to charge all their crystal nuclei and then went to the counter to select a medical diagnosis. Zhai Wenying in the study poked fiercely backstage, constantly buying medical diagnoses for these people. More than 10 people gathered near the counter to exchange their medicines. Surprisingly, there are also maintenance products. This place is really smart, I don't know where it comes from. Don't mess up the medicine. Don't worry, there's no one here. After everyone finished the medicine, they put the cards close to their bodies and squeezed around Jin Chitsong to explore. A group of old masters, stay away from me. Hee, boss, what did all this talk about? You don't know how to watch it yourself. Jin Chitsong glanced at Jiang Zhenliang and pushed away several nearby brothers. How can we bear to watch this? With his life crisis lifted, Jiang Zhenliang wished he could buy some barbecue beer and take a walk with his brothers. He didn't have the heart to watch these things. Zhai Wenying in the study doesn't have the heart to see them anymore. She really wants these people to leave quickly so that she can focus on studying the upgraded store. Boss, why don't we buy some grain bags and go back? A grain bag requires 6 primary crystal nuclei, but it contains 100 kilograms of rice, 50 kilograms of random vegetables, 40 kilograms of random meat, 30 kilograms of mushrooms, and 10 kilograms of eggs. Yeah, buy one and try it back. Fresh vegetables and meat. In the base, that's a good thing that even Hua Jinghe can't buy. Sure. He left the public account with Qiu Minghua, leaving a few people carrying the large bag that appeared out of thin air. Others went over to inform everyone to prepare something for cooking. As soon as these people left, Zhai Wenying immediately closed the store to see the benefits of the store upgrade. Congratulations to the boss for completing 10 transactions, and the store has been upgraded from a junior store to a 1-star store. Opening the details, Zhai Wenying saw the benefits of a 1-star store. Personal small shop, unnamed, store automatic sales mode, 8 hours per day, and expandable lounge, 10 rooms. Among these 3 benefits, the first 2 are urgently needed by Zhai Wenying. With a personal small shop, she can directly set up an area inside the store specifically to sell the things she has collected, without taking the risk of going out and privately trading with others. If she had also activated the automatic sales mode of the store, she could have become a hands-off shopkeeper, setting prices to make the store operate automatically. Unfortunately, it can only be used for 8 hours a day, and the extra time needs to be spent on purchasing points. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Apocalyptic Plane, 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Apocalyptic Plane, 5. The third benefit is to expand 10 lounges. Zhai Wenying hesitated whether to use them, as expanding one would consume 10 purchasing points. If you are in the rental business, in the long run, you can make a steady profit without losing. She wants these people to know that this house is owned, but she doesn't want to live with anyone else for the time being. Finally, she named her personal shop as a specialty area and set the store opening hours to be 7:00-9:00 in the morning, 1:00-3:00 in the afternoon, and 6:00-10:00 in the evening. The lounge will not be expanded temporarily. After arranging the automatic sales time for tomorrow clearly, she can collect materials tomorrow to enrich her personal shop. Not far from the sports stadium, the brothers brought out by Jin Chitsong have no complaints, but some family members have opinions in their hearts. Yesterday was still a warm and safe base, and tonight we have to revisit the life of fleeing in the early post-apocalyptic era. There is a possibility of retaliation from the base, and the future is uncertain. Everyone, hurry up and give us a hand. Let's rest after dinner and check this area tomorrow. We'll stay here from now on. The people who surrounded exclaimed, "Where did this come from? How come there are still vegetables? Didn't you come to the base before? Didn't you actually search for it?" Everyone came forward to look at the meat and vegetables, some even secretly touched them. The people in charge of washing vegetables looked helpless. No matter how they explained or shouted, there was someone who wanted to get started. On a cold night, with dim lights, the people sitting together felt warm both on their bodies and in their hearts. A full meal brought everyone a long-lost sense of happiness. Jin Chitsong had medicine, the team had military force and material support, and the originally disheartened team began planning and constructing this area, calculating the future development direction. "Boss, do we really want to settle here?" Xiao Minghua has some doubts. "The things here are very good, but they can purchase regularly and there is no need to stay here. Being too close to Furong City, there is a risk of being stabbed by the other party no matter what stage of development it reaches. Just take a look at the cards of your family of 3 and you'll understand. Returning to my own tent, I ask my wife for their mother and daughter's cards and carefully read the labels on the three-person cards. His golden card represents a powerful ability without committing any evil. My wife's card is a blue one, representing a general ability without any wrongdoing. My daughter's card is green, representing no abilities or wrongdoing. There is also an extra balance reminder on my daughter's card. Why do you suddenly have to look at this? Fu Xiaowei watched her husband carefully flip through 3 cards and finally poke the same spot. She looked at them for a while and sighed, feeling somewhat puzzled. The boss said we should stay here in the future, let me take a closer look at the cards. Do you see any difference then? A group of people should die tomorrow. Why? Our cards all represent innocent and evil people. In addition to these 3 types, there are also 3. If someone obtains a black card, they will be killed on the spot. How could it be? The boss will go to verify tomorrow. Fu Xiaowei, who had seen the magical methods inside, understood that this was most likely true. Tomorrow I will accompany your mother and daughter and not go anywhere. Fu Xiaowei leaned against her husband's embrace and responded, okay. It was late at night, and the people in the temporary camp were full of food and drink. Jin Qizong began to introduce the rules inside that strange shop to everyone. After listening, many people couldn't sleep, some were too excited, some ate too much, and some felt uneasy inside. Zhai Wenying, who lives nearby, only left a lamp on the 2nd floor, struggling with sweet potato vines. Just now, those people were so happy to see vegetables. Zhai Wenying suddenly remembered that the vegetables mentioned in the information were expensive, and the planting methods and the base had not been reformed, just like before the end of the world. And she has a free wooden ability, perhaps her personal shop can sell some vegetables. She wanted to condense the wooden ability in her palm, holding the sweet potato she had found before, and focused on feeling the difference in her body. Feeling one's own abilities is a very mysterious thing. Living in a world where everything can be explained by science for more than 20 years, Zhai Wenying felt a bit overwhelmed by the unscientific phenomena in her body for the first time. The energy of a superpower starts from the brain, but it circulates throughout the body and reappears at the desired location for the psychic. When she focused her attention on energy, she could even see a green stream of water the size of a little finger moving through her body, originating from her brain. Using up all her powers, Zhai Wenying was still somewhat unsatisfied. She likes the feeling of energy running, except for a bit tired of her brain. Other parts of her body are very comfortable, even more comfortable than soaking in hot springs. Turning around, she was ready to turn over the blanket and go to sleep. Oh no! Her bed was covered in sweet potato vines. If it weren't for the freshness preservation function in the storage room, Zhai Wenying would have put up a big loudspeaker to wake up the group of people and urge them to come and buy quickly. Busy until late at night, Zhai Wenying, who was originally scheduled to collect basic supplies from various places, got up late. She chose soup dumplings and a glass of soybean milk. She watched the surveillance video from 7.00 to 9.00 in the morning while eating. Did sweet potato vines sell a lot? A pig feeder. This person really can't speak, as long as there is food to eat. When sweet potato vines first came on the market, they cost 3 to 4 yuan per kilogram. Who's eating such expensive food for a pig? If you still bought it, are you a pig? Last night, she received a lot of sweet potato vines and divided them into 3 large bundles. She only sold 1 bundle of sweet potato vines in the morning, priced at 2 primary crystal nuclei, which is her net income, without having to split half of the profit to the store. Why hasn't anything been sold for so long? Tisk, you're quite clever and meticulous. It seems like you discovered the amazing use of this machine in the store last night. No wonder you've survived until now. Jin Qizong came with a group of people to collect the cards, including not only those who walked by seriously, but also a group of people who came bound, of all ages and genders. Fortunately, This building itself is already large, otherwise it would definitely not be able to accommodate so many people. The person who received the card did not leave, but watched as Jin Chitsong threw the bound person onto the machine. A black card was spit out, and at the same time, several chopstick-sized wind blades penetrated the person on the machine, like Zhai Wenying's soup-filling bag punctured by chopsticks, constantly leaking liquid. Puff. Vomit. Zhai Wenying knew the function of the instrument given by the heavenly Tao, but she was not mentally prepared yet. She faced the bloody scene directly, and even vomited on the spot, which was very similar to the breakfast she had eaten. She vomited for half an hour, her hands and feet were soft, her body was soft, her brain was broad and dizzy, and her mouth was bitter, like a dying fish, collapsing on the noblewoman's chair in the study. Why doesn't milk tea have the function of mosaic? Detected that the host has reached adulthood, the system automatically switches to adulthood mode. Would it take 10 purchase points to load underage mode? Load it now. As soon as she spent most of the money she had just earned, Zhai Wenying's dizzy head began to ache. Loading completed. Do you want to choose to switch to underage mode? Switch. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Apocalyptic Plane, 6. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Apocalyptic Plane, 6. She gritted her teeth and switched to underage mode, thinking about which day she would pit Jin Chitsong. Let him use her store to clean up traitors and villains without saying a word, at least give a reminder last night. At noon, Zhai Wenying picked up a spicy hot pot at 1 o'clock and hung it in a private shop for sale. The delicious spicy hot pot appeared on the counter, priced 2 primary crystal nuclei, and was bought by Xiao Minghua first. Minghua, this is too expensive. We can buy materials and make it ourselves. Fu Xiaowei had a hard time at the base, searching for her flower crystal core and always wanting to keep it for her daughter. The brothers next to them watched eagerly, wanting to buy too. Just looking at the surface, there are at least 4 types of meat and vegetables. It's such a large portion, with some hot powder, and it's enough to eat in 3 separate meals. They also searched at the counter, but unfortunately, the quantity was too large. If a few people put together the order, it would be cheaper than this one. However, there is no food package that is cost-effective, and it is also troublesome to compete with others. Watching the surveillance footage, Zhai Wenying was fed a full stomach of dog food. However, Fu Xiaowei's appearance reminded her that there is also a great market for women's products and baby products. Check the surveillance again, ignore the mosaic part, and calculate the number of people. There are 43 women still alive and 125 men. Returning to the desk, I crossed out the previously selected countryside and chose a nearby big city. Shopping with invisibility abilities is not as fun as imagined. Transferred to a large shopping mall with a dense concentration of zombies, Zhai Wenying felt flustered and bored after taking a few steps. Carrying a large burlap bag, she walked to the first floor to collect cosmetics. Woo! Zhai Wenying, who was at the counter and put essence water into the sack, was frightened by the barking. A large, dirty animal stared at her, with an air of wanting to fight her, making her choose to surrender. I'm leaving, no fighting. Squatting down in place, Zhai Wenying picked up something with a burlap bag and then moved it to the other side. She didn't understand why the animal that looked like a tiger and barked like a dog could see her invisible. As she moved, her sharp eyes caught sight of a bag of bread. It wasn't until Zhai Wenying reached the second floor that the animal that had been staring at her left. There may still be people living here. When Zhai Wenying was picking up clothes on the second floor, a shop only took half of them, leaving the remaining half here for those in need to pick them up. People and animals who can survive surrounded by so many zombies are quite impressive. If it weren't for that animal's fierce gaze, Zhai Wenying would have wanted to put a note for it to bring to its companions. Clothes, duvet covers, mattresses, towels, toothbrushes, baby products, women's products, and more are all available in this large shopping mall. Zhai Wenying took half of them back, but fortunately, the storage room was large enough for her to store these items. After moving upstairs, Zhai Wenying plans to go underground and take a look. The hallway sign of the shopping mall states that there is a food section underground. Afraid of encountering the previous animal and mistaking it for provocation, Zhai Wenying took a detour and entered through the subway entrance. The shop windows in the bakery were empty, while the milk tea shop next to them had a few dark things inside. Zhai Wenying guessed it was fruit. There are not many zombies underground, and most of them are trapped in one place and unable to come out. The blessing of dragging underage mode, zombies in her eyes are all a mosaic. I really didn't mean anything. Looking at the same fierce gaze as when she was on the first floor, Zhai Wenying was almost crying. She deliberately avoided this animal, so she didn't go to the first floor. Ham, come back quickly. Zhai Wenying's pre-apocalyptic attire is out of place with the dilapidated food court. Especially when she suddenly appeared not far from him, the boy instinctively called out the first force on his way home. The ferocious animal wagged its tail and walked over to Zhai Wenying, staring back at her as it walked, as if ready to bite her at any moment. Zhai Wenying looked at the boy and felt like she had seen him somewhere before. There is a shop in the nearby planting base that sells everything. Would you like to go and take a look? Zhai Wenying suspects that this animal is a dog, and it may also be a mutated dog. Such talents and dog talents must not stay in this dangerous place. They have to be abducted, taken back to be their own people. How far is this from the base? The boy's question was normal, but Zhai Wenying instinctively shuddered and said, "Don't go to the Furong City base. It's a magic cave over there. If you don't want to go to a nearby planting base, don't go there either." After the boy heard it, he didn't speak, and Zhai Wenying didn't know what to say. Do you know the famous superpower Jin Qitsong from the Furong City base before? He dragged his little brother away from the Furong City base to the planting base. The Furong City base is really not a good place to go, and even you and your companions may die if you go there. This obedient animal like a dog, although she is afraid, does not prevent her from liking it. As the dog became increasingly fierce, she ran away in a few seconds, leaving behind a sentence, "I'll pack up supplies nearby." The address and suggested route are on paper. The boy's thoughts were interrupted by these words, and he regained consciousness. He instinctively looked at his own ham and said, "Why did she just run away like this?" "Wan Wu, you don't know either. This person is really strange. Let's go back and find Mom." Wu. One person and one dog left, and Zhai Wenying also entered a new shopping mall to sweep the goods. This time, she regained her rebellious nature and paid close attention to the movements around her. She no longer relied on her invisibility ability to visit this place as her own home. After walking 3 large shopping malls in a row, she entered a star-rated hotel. 2 self-service restaurants. There may be some inventory of high-end ingredients inside. With excitement, she pushed open the door, and as soon as she entered, she chose to retreat to the street. Bang! The iron poles standing horizontally at the entrance of the star-rated hotel instantly glued together. If Zhai Wenying were one step later, she would be 100% locked inside. Having invisibility abilities and teleportation is not easy to use, as there are lights, electricity, and psychics inside. She doesn't want to play a live-action version of the Chamber of Secrets to escape. Besides food, Zhai Wenying has already collected a lot of similar types of materials. Due to the hotel incident, she lost her curiosity about this area and wanted to go back to her own territory. Before going back, she planned to go see that boy and that dog. If they are willing to go, she can openly join Jin Qitsong's team. Wu Woof. Wu Woof, even though he was invisible, he was still discovered. Zhai Wenying sighed and pulled out a stiff smile. Fortunately, this dog's hostility was not as obvious as before. I'll ask your partner if they want to go to the planting base together. If they don't go, I'll leave first. After finding the next person who is willing to go, follow along. The dog didn't speak, but Zhai Wenying heard footsteps. Are you going with us? Yes. I found a practical mountaineering packaging model in the mall and carried it on my back. Zhai Wenying nodded decisively. The boy she had seen walked out with another woman. The animal suspected of being a mutated dog wagged its tail and rubbed against the woman, closer than the boy. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Apocalyptic Plane, 7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 8. Apocalyptic Plane, 8. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Apocalyptic Plane, 8, Mom, why don't we go fight zombies? Jin Zhen is a gold-type ability, and his most proficient skill is to open the door. He always felt that he could cooperate with his teammates and make big moves in all directions. The reward for killing zombies is high, but it is very dangerous. It's not as stable as planting land in the base. In the past, at the Furong City base, the team couldn't buy medicine, and there were always people injured when leaving, and in severe cases, they couldn't come back. There is medicine now, but there are always unexpected situations. Jin Zhen felt bored and swung his small hoe to smash the ground. He was bitten by Ham at the bottom of his pants before starting to dig a hole and bury the vegetable seedlings that Zhai Wenying had nurtured. Li Xiaoxua looked at his gloomy expression, which was a bit funny. She did the same at the time, but after training for a while, she gave up and focused on farming. If you want to fight zombies, you must first pass the training set by our brother Kong. Only after passing the training can you enter the team that fights zombies. Every normal person in the post-apocalyptic world is precious, and Song Gu is planning more paths for those who lack abilities. Where to train and how to register. Zhai Wenying's eyes lit up as she eagerly looked over as she was promoting the vegetable variety. She also wants to learn and cannot come to this world for nothing. We need to complete this task first before we can do anything else. Jin Zhen's emotions were instantly high, and he worked hard to farm, which made Li Xiaoxua envious. When her parents were still around, she was the same way. Every time, she would be teased by her father, saying that she didn't grow up. Meng Hui used earth-type abilities to plow the ground, Zhai Wenying gave birth, Jin Zhen and Ham dug a pit, and Li Xiaoxua watered it. It took a whole morning to complete the day's task, except for Meng Hui, the three of them and the dog were exhausted and panting heavily. Do you still need to go see the training in the afternoon? Li Xiaoxua took them to the public cafeteria, where they served a dish with a combination of meat and vegetables and a bowl of rice. If they wanted to eat more, they had to spend more time on crystal nuclei or energy points. Energy point. Yes, the instrument that Brother Tsong redeemed from that store can be infused with special abilities. What if the powers are gone? Jin Zhen doesn't understand. It will automatically recover, similar to using abilities when fighting zombies. At first, everyone was also worried. Song Gu had tried it, and Uncle Xiao and others had also tried it, but their abilities didn't go wrong. So everyone unanimously agreed to add this as currency. After dinner, Li Xiaoxua took them to the accommodation. The accommodation conditions here are not particularly good. You need to go to the store to buy beds and the like, which are very cheap, but remember to recharge in advance. That store is also intelligent and offers new products at a discount, but it doesn't offer delivery services. Whether it's small or large items, you have to find a way to take them yourself. Entering a homestay, Li Xiaoxua went behind the counter and grabbed 3 locks, then led them upstairs. This house happens to have 3 rooms, which is very suitable for the 3 of you to live in. There is also a vegetable plot behind it, which is not large or small and has not been requisitioned. If you have time, you can also plant one, but you need to pay some taxes as rent every month. The price is not expensive, so it's actually quite cost-effective. Okay, thank you, Xiaoxua. You guys take a break first, I'll come back to see you at 3 p.m. this afternoon. Okay, thank you. Li Xiaoxue left to report the situation to Qiu Minghua. It's good that these three people are okay. Once you get to know them, you can ask them where they come from. Good. In the afternoon, Jin Zhen and Zhai Wenying, who had run back to the store to have a private meal, followed Li Xiaoxue into the training ground with full energy. Oh. Get up, continue. At your speed, the zombie has already covered your face. The sports stadium originally used for concerts and various meetings has been transformed into a training ground. The bottom is for running, while the other sub-areas include stick training, strength training, reaction speed training, and so on. You need to train in at least 3 areas, the coach nods, and then you can join the zombie fighting team. Can I join the training now? Li Xiaoxue nodded and Jin Zhen immediately walked towards the side where he taught how to play with sticks. Which group does Sister Min want to go to? I'll go for a run first. As a cancer patient with procrastination, the medicine that can cure Zhai Wenying's condition is someone else's supervision. There are many people in other groups, and the coach on the running side can keep an eye on her, which is more suitable for her who wants to train. After running 800 meters, Zhai Wenying regretted it. Get up, don't run or leave. The zombie is here. Can you lie down? If you fall down, you'll be dead. Zhai Wenying stood up with strong support, moving at a speed similar to that of a newly transformed zombie. Her hands and feet were stiff and uncoordinated, panting heavily. I'm so tired. After walking twice, Zhai Wenying was finally able to speak up. Upon hearing these words, the coach in charge of supervision looked at her with an expression that seemed to be watching an exam. Suddenly, she was ranked last, with a positive number, which made her feel flustered. Me, what's wrong with me? The physical fitness of individuals with supernatural abilities has been strengthened. Do you not use your supernatural abilities much, or have you not changed psychologically? I have been living peacefully and steadily, and my family members like them have this psychological problem, which the coach can understand. But those are all well-protected elderly, weak, sick, and disabled children. You're brushing a golden card. Is that not enough? I don't use my abilities to fight very much. Strictly speaking, so far, there hasn't been a single one. Sun Zhongyi really wants to know, how did this girl live for so long? Wait. Can you use superpowers? Yeah. I used my powers to plant vegetables this morning, and the 4 of us worked together to complete the basic tasks in the morning. Okay, then you can show me. Sun Zhongyi made room for Zhai Wenying to showcase space. I have a woody ability, there aren't many plants nearby that can give me life. In theory, Zhai Wenying understands the woody ability, but in practice, she only produces seeds and vegetables. She learned to control the amount of abilities in a few days, and she felt very confident. Sun Zhongyi sighed, lacking combat awareness, not knowing how to use abilities, and having an extremely poor physique, he was completely wasting his own conditions. Upon hearing this sigh, Zhai Wenying felt as if she had returned to middle school. The homeroom teacher was watching the students who had joined the funeral family, but this time she was no longer an observer. What's going on? If you really want to learn, it will be very painful. It's okay, I can do it. Zhai Wenying had a firm expression on her face. She must learn something in this world and not waste such a special opportunity. Okay, you can run 8 more laps. When will you finish running and when will you return? Come back tomorrow afternoon. Oh, okay. Zhai Wenying's face instantly collapsed. Under Sun Zhongyi's gaze at the underperforming students, she ran 2 laps and rested for a few laps. After everyone had gone back and left, she finally completed 8 laps. Jin Zhen had already cried out for exhaustion and went home to eat. Zhai Wenying, who had been left behind, dragged her tired body to the cafeteria and found that only a bowl of egg custard was left. After barely filling her stomach, she returned to her room and teleported back to her lounge to order a beef rice, which she ate to her heart's content. The next morning, Zhai Wenying deliberately set the alarm clock and washed up in her lounge. She returned to the small building where she lived, opened the door, and prepared for a morning run. Huijia, are you also going for a run? Following Meng Hui, there was also a spirited ham and a half-dead Jin Zhen, whose mouth could even hold an oil bottle. Yes, we used to go for a run at this point too often. The team of 3 people and 1 dog once again gathered together, this time it was a serious exercise. The planting base was originally a region focused on developing the tourism industry, with a large location. There are not many people like them who run in the morning, but most of them are patrolling people. Song and the others are back. Listening to the shouting from afar, Jin Zhen, who had been running reluctantly and yawning uncontrollably, suddenly regained his composure. He stretched his neck and looked back, but his heart was as iron, silent, and the ham behind him was also staring at him. He dared not approach and watch the commotion. Zhai Wenying also wants to go, but the other 2 people are not going. It's not interesting for her to go alone. As a result, they ran a big circle and bypassed an intersection, coincidentally colliding with Jin Qizong and Qiu Minghua who were returning home. Uncle Qiu. Miss Min, hello. This is Brother Kong. Hello everyone. After saying hello to Zhai Wenying, she looked left at Jin Qizong and right at Meng Hui. What's the situation with these 2? Hui. Meng Hui, who was originally mature and steady, was filled with tears in her eyes. Just now, Jin Zhen, who was still looking at Jin Qizong with a curious and admiring expression, was initially skeptical, and then his gaze at Jin Qizong became particularly complex. Ham was frightened by Meng Hui's state and stared fiercely at the culprit Jin Qizong, ready to fight at any time. Jin Qizong ran over and forcefully hugged his lost and regained wife, ignoring her behavior and causing everyone to stare blankly. If it weren't for Jin Zhen's obstruction, the ham could have gone up and given Jin Qizong a bite. Woo woof. Woo, woof, woof. Ham looked at his younger brother with dissatisfaction. Mom was sad, how could he ignore it? Having been taught a lesson by Ham as his brother, Jin Zhen's emotions are no longer complicated at this moment. He is even curious about Jin Qizong's idea of having a dog son. When the family reunited, Zhai Wenying watched the excitement and prepared to withdraw. She's busy. I still don't listen to gossip that I shouldn't listen to. After finishing work in the morning, in the afternoon, I went to receive the baptism of Sun's homeroom teacher's immature gaze, and practiced according to his requirements. Every day, exhausted and half dead, when she went back to her room and fell asleep, she felt like a big loser who spent money to go to jail. The money was still earned by her hard work when she was in prison. Thinking so, the next day when she woke up, she obediently followed Coach Sun's schedule for training. After a month of learning, Zhai Wenying's physical fitness has basically passed the standard. Due to the lack of practical combat, the progress of supernatural combat did not meet Sun Zhongyi's standards. Learn more combat skills before going out. After teaching for so long and receiving Zhai Wenying's apprenticeship, Sun Zhongyi began to worry about Zhai Wenying's future. Learn more and have more life-saving skills in order to survive until the end. Okay, teacher, I won't go out until I finish learning. Okay. Sun Zhongyi was delighted to see his disciple so steady, and Jin Zhen beside him pursed his lips and continued to run circles. He practiced stick technique here in the afternoon and occasionally followed his newly recognized father to practice martial arts at night, but surprisingly did not pass the assessment. The coach said that his endurance is too poor, his recovery speed is also slow, and after playing a game, he becomes lethargic. In situations where one is risking one's life, one is going to die. Especially after the announcement of Jin Zhen's identity, the coach became even more strict with him, fearing that he would cause a huge upset and lead to Jin Qizong becoming the last emperor. Wang Wu, I understand, I'm not slacking off. Ham is amazing. You're so fast and have such good endurance. If you want to run, no one can catch up with you. Before leaving, Zhai Wenying praised the Ham as a way to make Jin Zhen's life more fulfilling. Ham is the son of Jin Qitsong's dog, and his privilege is to train with other normal people. Highly intelligent mutated dogs are intelligent, fierce, and stable in the background. Most people can hide whenever they can. Rarely praised, Ham's supervisor Jin Zhen's training has been even more intense, with the goal of making his younger brother as powerful as it. Keeping up with physical fitness makes learning stick techniques much easier. After returning every night, Zhai Wenying can spare time to choose a large supermarket and restock her personal shop. With so many people, it's difficult for the store to be promoted. After such a long time, including the number of transactions in the personal small shop, there are only about 100 transactions. In a few days, it will be possible to upgrade to a 2-star store. But the next level requires 1,000 transactions, and the requirements for further promotion are even higher. Isn't it necessary for her to stay here for a lifetime? We need to talk to Sister Hui. Meng Hui is a standard virtuous assistant who is very familiar with the internal management affairs of the base. Since she took over the housekeeping, the amount of free meals in the cafeteria has doubled. Except for stakeholders, everyone else admires her greatly. It's difficult to ship and sell. Meng Hui also had the idea of reselling things in the store. But the road is blocked, and the information is also blocked. The target of her business is likely to be the Furong city base. That's a wolf constantly staring at their flesh, how dare everyone be willing. Okay, I thought I could make a profit on the price difference. Meng Hui smiled and bid farewell to Zhai Wenying, but was pondering the feasibility of this matter in her heart. When Jin Qitsong returned, Meng Hui discussed with him. Hui, I'm afraid we'll have to wait a while longer. If Master receives any news, he might bring someone over directly. Previously, his master did not agree for him to marry Meng Hui, but now he is 100% unwilling to let him use that machine to screen people. Without screening people, the burden on the base itself becomes much heavier, and who can afford to raise a bunch of freeloaders? If there had been such a machine before, my dad wouldn't have gone astray either. Meng Hui's father was caught up in an abnormal industry. When he was deceived by his good brother and wanted to escape, he found himself deeply trapped in it. That good brother is holding on to their family as a mascot, recklessly embezzling their wealth, and doing all the bad things under the banner of the Meng family. My father.in.law is in heaven's spirit, and I should be very happy to see this scene. Meng Hui's parents were both charity entrepreneurs at the beginning, and for some reason, their younger brother was a villain who dragged the Montessori company into the abyss and even wanted to use her to form a marriage alliance. Fortunately, she was chosen as an undercover agent by her parents before their death, and she didn't need to continue living that kind of escape life. Your master is really stubborn. He once swore to me that no man would compromise for so-called love. But you are a career-oriented person, and sooner or later you will rise to a higher position than him. Meng Hui nestled into the sofa, talking about what had happened before, feeling a bit dull and painful in her heart. He demoted me to nothing. With me around, you won't be able to get promoted, and you might even be kicked out and become an ordinary person. Today's update, end of this chapter. Chapter 9. Apocalyptic Plane, 9. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Apocalyptic Plane, 9. The two of them were separated for a long time, and Meng Hui deliberately did not go to find Jin Qitsong. Now that they are reunited, she needs to untie this knot. Jin Qitsong realized that his master had always wanted him to marry the only daughter of a certain superior. When you left, I asked my master, but he refused to give me your information. I didn't know you had an I'm sorry for letting you work hard alone for so many years. If he had known his wife was pregnant, he wouldn't have chosen to open his own security company and find someone. He would have pestered his master to grind down his wife's position. Didn't you also look for me for so many years? I am arrogant. Holding his lost and regained wife, Jin Chitsong felt that his life was complete at this moment. How did you come over here? Anan and I lived closer to the Qingqing base at that time, but the situation with the ham was not right at the time, and we didn't dare to take it away. We had to continue living in the same place. When it comes to ham, Jin Chitsong thinks it's a good thing to make it explode with love, so that no one can disturb his and his wife's world together. Meng Hui's journey can be considered as turning misfortune into good fortune, always receiving help from influential people. Near the Qingqing base, there is a boss in her area who is similar to Jin Chitsong. Meng Hui had previously learned martial arts from Jin Chitsong and had powerful abilities, so she had a good time with her son. One day, the boss suddenly decided to join the base. She also heard about Jin Chitsong's news and decided to come here to find him. Before leaving, the boss asked her to be careful of the people in the research institute. She didn't ask for the map sent by the researchers, so she walked this way based on her own impression. After walking a short distance, I got on the highway. The highway was cleared and they drove smoothly to Huazhou, but the car couldn't pass through. After getting off the highway, the city of Huazhou was empty. The two of them decided to find a place, get a map, or find a mobile phone that can be turned on or a car with navigation, and see if there is a nearby map. I finally found the warehouse of a mobile phone store, and there are two teams fighting outside. They stayed in place and dared not go out. By the time I left at night, the car had already been scrapped. The habit of carrying supplies at any time makes their next journey less difficult. The intersection was blocked by an evil force, and anyone they caught was taken away with their hands and feet broken. They were not familiar with the place of life, and the map on their phone helped them hide in the bustling commercial area, temporarily surviving. Afterwards, he met Zhai Wenying and relied on her to run out. What is the scale of that influence? Not much, but the likelihood of winning is not high. Zhai Wenying felt that there were too few people in the base, and Jin Chitsong also felt the same way. He needs more people to build the base. Meng Hui, who had faced those people directly, felt that there was no point. It's similar to the people brought over by the uncles and aunts back then, and maybe even more ferocious. There may be people in that team who can heal, such as healing abilities. Those people who come over will only try their best to kill Jin Chitsong and seize power, and then squeeze everyone. Then send a message to that side. The Furong city base is missing a large number of superpowers. In a short period of time, there is a rush to deploy defenses and kill zombies. I won't care about them, but as time goes on, I will definitely have ulterior motives. The people who were killed by the machine still have their cards, and it is clear who is behind them. Jin Chitsong asked his familiar brothers to imitate their tone and send the message out. The first person to receive the message was the Research Institute, which quickly passed it on to the official. The official was hesitating whether to recruit such a group of people. The remaining two superpower forces in the base are not easy to manage, and life is not as easy as when Jin Chitsong was present. The two superpower forces at the Furong city base do not want outsiders to come in and share the cake. The official hesitated several times and divided the number of people between the two supernatural powers, but still went to escort the survivors back to the base. Zhai Wenying did not participate much in the affairs of the planting base. After fully mastering her abilities, she went to seed management departments across the country to search for seeds. At night, I dug it out, and during the day, I took the crystal nuclei I earned from farming to my personal shop, specialty area, to buy and promote it. The prices of vegetables are getting lower and lower. Meat is now much more expensive than vegetables, but apart from mutated ones, there are very few normal animals. Zhai Wenying has entered the deep mountains and forests several times, where there are only a few plants and animals, and they cannot be eaten. The cost of living has decreased, and everyone's life is also easier. Li Xiaoxue feels that the base now has a pre-apocalyptic feeling, and she cherishes it very much. Zhai Wenying felt that these days were not good enough. Her store has been upgraded by 2 stars, and the available vending time has been reduced to 12 hours, which has extended her evening business hours. But there are only so many people here, and there aren't many more transactions after the time has been extended. After selling the vegetables, Zhai Wenying decided to go out with the afternoon team to fight zombies. Li Xiaoxue felt it was too dangerous and advised Zhai Wenying for a few words. She watched as Zhai Wenying persisted and respected her choice. After leaving the planting base, the more you go outside, the more desolate it becomes. A place without popularity looks gloomy. It will be troublesome to build roads in the future. Led by Jiang Zhenliang, the most famous chatterbox player at the base. When he speaks, if someone answers, he can chase after them and talk for a whole day. The only ones that can cure him are Jin Qizong and Ham. The former is an idol, while the latter cannot be defeated. Zhai Wenying learned about the progress of the team going out from Jiang Zhenliang's self-talk. They did not kill the zombies in the direction of the Furong city base, and indirectly drove the zombies from other directions towards that direction. Cleaning up too quickly, we have to drive longer each time to find the zombies. The area to be cleaned up today is at the junction of Qinqing base and Furong city base, and the two sides have a tacit understanding. If it weren't for the absence of zombies, I wouldn't have wanted to come to this damn place. They just bombard zombies, and every time they use a helicopter to bomb, they only focus on the crystal core and don't care about anything else. How disgusting passers-by. As one of the areas where zombies are concentrated for bombing, there are no survivors nearby, only scattered lucky zombies who survived, as well as materials that have not been thoroughly searched. After getting off the car, fight and collect supplies in pairs. Zhai Wenying and another Earth-type ability were arranged to pick up leeks and greenery in the bombing area. This place is too smelly. Su Wanmao, who collaborated with Zhai Wenying, flipped the floor and didn't want to work anymore. He is a soil-type superpower, so sending him to do this job with the newcomer is really a big deal. If it weren't for your unfamiliarity as a newcomer, would have gone to various places to pick up leeks. These packaging materials are in high demand now, and the remaining ones can be exchanged for many good things after handing them over. Su Wanmao sat on the recliner beside him, chattering incessantly. Zhai Wenying really annoyed him. This is a task for 2 people. You just flipped over the ground and haven't finished yet. I'm not a soil-type superpower, I'm only responsible for nurturing plants. Hey, do you know how to respect elders? You can't do it by yourself. Isn't the shovel there? Su Wanmao became increasingly drowsy as he spoke, his eyelids drooping as he watched as he was about to fall asleep. Hearing Zhai Wenying's rebuttal, he immediately became mentally alert. He's a senior. How dare this young man talk back? Zhai Wenying was impatient with dealing with such people. She urged all the seeds to sprout at once, put them in a pot, and the person ran away. Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? I need to report you. I'll tell you, come back. After lifting the blanket and reclining in the chair for a while, Zhai Wenying ran out of sight. There is a fixed number of seeds, and Su Wanmao dare not run away with these seedlings. He can only start working. He was drafting a complaint in his heart, and he insisted that Zhai Wenying bleed heavily once. Zhai Wenying, who had run away, walked invisibly towards the direction of the county town. Their gathering time is 9 p.m., and if there are special circumstances, they can use their own fireworks to communicate. The urban area is richer than the village, but her teammates have not come over. It is estimated that this area is under the jurisdiction of the Qinqing base. After filling her backpack, she moved the things to her store. When bombing zombies in this area, people were cleared, so there was no need to leave half for those who might be alive here. Zhai Wenying searched very carefully and didn't let go at all. Tea seems to be good too, it can last quite a long time, maybe someone bought it to force it. Seeing a tea room, it was still early in the morning, Zhai Wenying went in and transferred all the tea jars back to her own shop. Encountering a vase that she couldn't hold, she shook it left and right, pulled it up, but still couldn't hold it, so she patted the bottle, intending to stop. At this moment, the bottle loosened a bit. Zhai Wenying pressed down and the door opened. Grasping the iron rod tightly and using the chair next to her to block the door, she walked inside. The room was very dark, and Zhai Wenying took a flashlight and only found a large bed and some special items. She tapped the wall with an iron rod. The sound was not quite right, but she didn't notice the new hidden door, so she finally chose the central king bed. With a thrust of the iron rod, it was so soft that Zhai Wenying didn't plan to bring it back, considering that there might have been some chaotic incidents on it. The iron rod slammed into the bottom of the bed and scratched into the crack on the wall. After knocking but not moving, Zhai Wenying carefully studied the bedside structure and finally found the mechanism at the position of the desk lamp. Pressing down, the wall rose and she saw a pile of bags piled full. She pulled a bag down, poked it open, and surprisingly, it was rice that leaked out. Turning her head to look at the sack on this wall, a sentence echoed in her mind. Get rich. Sitting back and forth in the teleportation array, Zhai Wenying moved to the end and sat on the ground next to the bed, feeling dizzy. This store has hollowed out the back of the wall and hidden so much, probably due to some chain of interests. Entering the wall, she carefully looked again and found an exit that widened as she walked, connecting to an underground parking lot. There were voices outside the wall, and Zhai Wenying was afraid that the other party was coming towards the rice. She quickly ran back to eliminate the evidence. Bring something. Zhai Wenying closes the mechanism and goes to another supermarket to collect things. She saw the crowded shelves and gritted her teeth, sending out a fireworks signal. After sending the signal, she locked the door. If Jiang Zhenliang and the others didn't come, she would have swallowed these supplies. On the other hand, Jiang Zhenliang returned to the gathering place with the supernatural beings around him, preparing to drive to the location of the fireworks to take a look. Captain Jiang, you've come back. I said this young man just can't handle it. You must have someone join me. Hey, where are you going? Su Wanmao remained silent and several people returned along the way, ignoring him. He followed Jiang Zhenliang in his car and headed towards the county town. No, why did you take me with you? Do your own job well. Su Wanmao wanted to chase after him, but the car key was not with him. He was very angry, but he could only continue planting trees. Zhai Wenying waited for 15 minutes before Jiang Zhenliang's car arrived at the door. Are you sure it's here? Well, this is where the fireworks last appeared. The last position that Tang Hongye sensed was at the entrance of this supermarket. But the door is locked, it's a bit strange. Jiang team. Zhai Wenying opened the door and let them in. Seeing a room full of things, Jiang Zhenliang and Tang Hongye were both stunned. Such a complete supermarket is rare. The experienced talks prepared for Zhai Wenying along the way by the few people who followed were completely useless. If we could find out so much every time, Zhai Wenying would be able to leave the team no matter how. Jiang, can we start moving now? When I arrived, I found someone nearby, so I locked the door. A group of people looked at each other without even touching, and Zhai Wenying spoke up to urge them. She came out to fight zombies, not people. She also has to participate in the war when those people come over. Now her heart is empty and she can't touch it, and her hands are soft. Jiang Zhenliang waved his hand and said, put everything in a burlap bag and seal it. Go back and subdivide it. Zhai Wenying watched helplessly as the others had 2 burlap bags hanging in their hands, quickly throwing things into the bags with both hands. How could she fall behind? She kept carrying vine branches, pushing them together with vines, and then sweeping them into the bag. In the same 15 minutes, the supermarket was cleaned up completely, and Zhai Wenying happily sat in the car preparing to gather back to the planting base. Stop searching for supplies. Don't continue, there are people around here who are not clear about their attitude, and I may not be able to pass the fight either. If you see something good, stop it. Jiang Zhenliang began to instill in Zhai Wenying 10 principles to pay attention to when going out, which made her ears ache. He said it no less than 5 times before coming. Back at the assembly place, the others had already got on the bus and sat down. When Su Wanmao saw Zhai Wenying in the back seat, he put the shovel away and sat there crying about Zhai Wenying's dishonesty. Min Yin looks reliable, but in reality, she left here without me alone. With such a large piece of land, it's clearly a task for 2 people, so she left, leaving me to do it alone. My abilities are overdrawn. He couldn't help but shed tears, which left Zhai Wenying stunned. The others looked calm, as if she had never seen the world before. You can leave without the team next time. Su Wanmao's crying came to an abrupt end. Seeing that Jiang Zhenliang really didn't help him, he stopped talking. He packed the shovel and got on the bus. On the way back, Jiang Zhenliang was very happy and imagined the supplies in the town, preparing to gather another team to come over. Tang Hongye, who was driving, was also very happy, calculating what good things he could catch next time. The sound of 2 people chattering and discussing various things together was not as noisy as when they came. Zhai Wenying was hypnotized by this sound and slowly fell asleep. In her dream, there was a flower field. While she was enjoying the beautiful scenery and preparing to find some delicious fruits, she found that the flower field had been displayed with a few words. Today's update, 4,000 words, end of this chapter. Chapter 10. Apocalyptic Plane, 10. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Apocalyptic Plane, 10, Stop the Qingqing Base. What is this? Zhai Wenying was startled awake. The car is still halfway, so she can't go back to contact the system and send messages to inquire about the situation. Jiang team, do you think the people over there might be from the Qingqing base? What are they doing there? It is said that the Qingqing base is not short of supplies, so the motivation for sending the team to that county town is very confusing. This kind of thing is something that Brother Tsong needs to consider. When he goes back, I will tell him. When the sky collapses, we will hold on. Don't think too much. Zhai Wenying listened to these words, happy but not too happy. After returning, she pretended to be tired and went back to her own home to sleep. In fact, she teleported back to the lounge and asked Milk Tea to send an email to inquire about Tiandao's dream. The reply is fast. The Qingqing base is studying zombies. If left unchecked, the direction of the world's evolution will undergo significant changes. Also, the plane Tiandao is very dissatisfied with your progress. The speed is too slow and does not match the high efficiency of the heavenly way itself. Is my progress very slow? Searching. Your ranking is in the top 5% under the same level of ability. Why did the world choose me as a newcomer to open a store here? Since this heavenly demand is faster, the first choice should be a mature boss with more accumulation and experience. Because it only has these choices. Can store owners like us also choose seating options? Zhai Wenying came to this world and was dominated by Milk Tea throughout. Will it be her turn to choose next time? What is the best world to choose? Sorry, you don't have permission. The words of Milk Tea are gentle and heart-wrenching. Zhai Wenying vented her anger on the Qingqing base. If it weren't for their reckless behavior, she wouldn't have known she was being despised. She can't stop it alone, she has to go shake people. What map did the person I met say that time? There might be something good nearby. Zhai Wenying took the initiative to contact Jiang Zhenliang and explained the situation. Why didn't you say it before? Jiang Zhenliang felt strange that this kind of thing could be said with him in the car. He secretly invited him out, which made him think of a small essay that politely refused to confess. Because the risk is quite high, there are only a few of us. If we turn around on the spot after speaking, I'm afraid we won't be able to fight. Zhai Wenying's invisibility ability has spread among Jin Qitsong's confidants, and they also know the method of restraint. Upon hearing Zhai Wenying's explanation, Jiang Zhenliang immediately knew what she was thinking. I'm not the kind of person who wants women to die. Zhai Wenying grabbed her clothes and remained silent. Jiang Zhenliang was very angry and went to report to Jin Qitsong. Zhai Wenying returned to her room and looked at the map in her mind. The Qinqing base is not far from here, and the highway in Huazhou can be directly connected. If the Lotus City base has already taken away the supernatural beings from Huazhou, they only need 1 day to reach the Qinqing base. Miss Min Yin, we're on a mission. Let's go back together and see the situation. They had a small meeting, and it was highly likely that the food hidden in that county town was food. At present, the base is not lacking in daily food and drink, but there is no food in stock. Everyone was moved when they heard the news. As the discoverer, Zhai Wenying must follow along. When getting on the car, Jin Zhen was very excited and said, even Ham came with us. Half of the people were dispatched this time. Yeah. Zhai Wenying felt a pain in her flesh. There was a granary in that county town, and she secretly used a teleportation array to take a look before leaving. She felt guilty for letting these people follow her to catch people and not giving food as a hardship. The modified car flew high, and Jin Zhen and Ham were very happy, shouting non-stop. Zhai Wenying's face turned white in the same car. She's really afraid of encountering some kind of roadblock on the road. A car at such a safe speed will destroy people. Drive directly into the county town and search inside in groups of 10 people. Core figures such as Zhai Wenying, Ham, Jin Zhen, Jin Qitsong, and Jiang Zhenliang are all in the same group. Zhai Wenying is in an invisible state, Jin Qitsong and others are led by Ham, and Jin Zhen is a dog language translator. She walked all the way to the tea room and led the people towards the community. Just as I turned the corner, I saw a person wearing a white coat sitting on a lounge chair, looking impatient, surrounded by several people with live ammunition from the Lotus warehouse. Afterwards, he gestured and let out 2 wines from the nearby Ham. Jin Zhen told everyone, it's dangerous to be inside. Jin Qitsong asked the remaining few people to stay in place and he went to take a look. As soon as he reached the rooftop, the familiar sound of breaking through the air made his blood boil, and the subsequent roar instantly calmed him down. Which team, get out? Zhai Wenying, who was hiding, was startled. She glanced at the rooftop and moved to the other side. Is there anything strange in this community? What will be here? Turning around, she saw other people, some wearing uniforms and some not, digging walls and transporting soil. Following the flow of people, she saw a row of incomplete walls, with a deafening knocking sound, and a complete small room next to it. There is only one person in the room, drawing with their hands. That pen is very special, like a private customization, engraved with the words Wenying. Ah! Zhai Wenying was in a daze as she was grabbed by the neck and lifted up. She vigorously patted the other person's hand, forgetting in that moment that she could use the teleportation array. 1. Yen. Min. Cough. Being thrown to the ground, Zhai Wenying secretly reminded herself to remember to teleport next time and not to be so reckless. Using her invisibility ability again, she leaned against the wall and took a deep breath. The sound of hammering against the wall outside was loud, completely masking the movement inside the room. When did you see her? Many months ago, at the Furong City base. How is she? Dead. Impossible. Brother Jing, didn't you dig, did you? When Yanjing's last sound was almost broken, and the people outside stopped moving. They looked at each other, their faces shattered, and they had to dig again. This job was really exhausting. The team leader ran in to ask about the situation, and seeing that when Yanjing's expression was not quite right, his heart felt cold. It's hard to find the right direction, why did you get it wrong again? Recalling the day when Yanmin died, Zhai Wenying cried. That is the most powerless thing for her. The teleportation array cannot take people away, the invisibility ability cannot hide too, and she cannot fight at all. When Yanjing suppressed his emotions and casually asked these people not to dig yet. He stayed alone for a while and figured out what to do. The team leader nodded, asked the person to stop, and then turned to the other side to file a complaint. Dean Yen, it seems that Mr. Wen has misplaced his position again. Yan Jishuan didn't dare to relax when he saw his subordinates approaching and they didn't kill anyone. This person is 100% aimed at him. In his mind, he took turns looking at the faces of several old guys. He was furious, and this time when he went back, he wanted to make the Qingqing base surnamed Yen. Waste, let him use his brain. If not, go take a cold shower and wake up. As he spoke, he also paid attention to the movements around him. But he hasn't trained for a long time, leaving only some instincts and memories. Looking in any direction, he feels like someone is staring at him. The team leader finished taking eye drops and walked towards the direction where the supplies were placed. He's almost deaf from the shock, so he needs to take advantage of this time to eat something to make up for it. Yan Jishuan didn't pay attention to his small movements. The bodyguards surrounded the wall, while he sat in a recliner, mentally tense, thinking about how to leave. On the other side, Jin Qizong was also confused. Mr. Wen. Is he the leader of the area where his wife used to stay? How could that person be controlled by their own master? In the room, when Yanjing closed the door and looked at Zhai Wenying crying on the ground, asking her to explain the matter. Zhai Wenying truthfully said, including what kind of state Wen Yanmin was seeing. When Yanjing asked several questions in a row, and Zhai Wenying answered according to the reality she saw. Are you alone now? Zhai Wenying shook her head and told the story of encountering Meng Hui and going to the newly built planting base in Jin Qizong. That store is so good, why didn't you stay there at first? At that time, I only knew how to use invisibility abilities and didn't know how to attack with wooden abilities. I picked up crystal nuclei. They took people away and cleared up zombies, so I couldn't pick up any more. The reason sounds absurd and seems a bit logical, overall it's quite bizarre. Why did you go back with someone again after that? He knows Meng Hui and her son, and he has some kind of friendship with them. After we can communicate, we can see if Zhai Wenying is lying. I knew there might be a better shelter, but who wouldn't want to go in and live a better life? If I wanted to go in, it had to be valuable, so I decided to go to the commercial district to get some good things. When I met Meng Hui and her, we didn't happen to be together, so there's no need to worry about being suspected or bullied alone. When Yanjing did not say whether he believed it or not. He rolled up the blueprint in his hand, went out and stopped. I'll go out and take a look at the structure. You guys should go over and have something to eat while it's okay now. After speaking, he tapped his head twice with the paper tube in his palm, looking particularly decadent. When Yanjing left, and dozens of people responsible for hammering the wall ran 10 by 10. The remaining 40.5 did not go to the food storage area, but took a detour towards the direction of the river embankment. Wen Gu. My sister is dead, are you still willing to stay at that base? These 40.5 are all brothers trusted by Wen Yanjing. From self-proclaimed king to joining the base, they all steadfastly followed him and were not attracted by the base. Where are we going, brother Wen? Those who are willing to follow Wen Yanjing are all lonely, able to live well, and it doesn't matter where they go. Tell me, where are Jin Qizong and the others? Zhai Wenying soon brought these people over to Jinzhen. Seeing so many strangers, Ham immediately entered a state of readiness. Zhai Wenying continued to disappear and went upstairs to shout for Jin Qizong to come down. On the other hand, Yan Jishuan, who had not been attacked for a long time, calmed down a bit and sent someone to call for others to go around from the back to the front to check the situation, preferably capturing them. After 10 people called by Yan Jishuan walked up to the front and searched, Zhai Wenying had already taken them to a comprehensive kindergarten. You are very familiar with this place, are you a local? Zhai Wenying shook her head. She was not a local or from this world. So you're quite good at recognizing the way. Zhai Wenying was speechless, and Wen Yanjing was too targeted at her, right? Be careful that she doesn't report back to Tiandao and arranges for Wen Yanmin to be his daughter, Wen Yanjing. I won't forget the road I've walked. And the places I've walked are beyond your imagination. Miss Min Yin is driving so slowly, it takes so long to see, how could she not remember the road? When Jin Zhen heard Zhai Wenying bragging, he subconsciously roasted, and then was kicked by Zhai Wenying. The ham, which was often bribed by Zhai Wenying, pretended to be invisible when he saw that its strength was not strong. When Yanjing did not further investigate the doubts about Zhai Wenying, and he discussed cooperation with Jin Qizong. Zhai Wenying felt bored and went out with Ham to let out some fresh air. Jin Zhen was forced to stay inside and see the world. After discussing it, they decided to trap Yan Jishuan and wait for him to escape back to the Qinqing base before taking out the things. I really hope my parents can have a younger one. They're not too old, preferably younger sisters. My dad already has 2 sons. Wang Wu Ham agrees, but my younger brother is not obedient at all. I heard that my younger sister is very well behaved and cute, just as gentle as Xiao. Jin Zhen, who could understand the dog language of Ham, was instantly furious. Before he could argue back, he was stopped by Zhai Wenying using bread. Woo-woo. What are you doing? Zhai Wenying saw Wen Yanjing withdraw her gaze and stomped Jin Zhen. He is so pitiful with tears streaming down his face. What did he do wrong? The combat group and the material group are separated, with no other forces. Zhai Wenying, Jin Zhen, and Ham, who were assigned to the material group, roamed the streets in small groups. That leading brother Wen's sister had an accident and was raised as a daughter. How did he feel when you talked so much? Jin Zhen compared his neck with his hand, and Zhai Wenying nodded, I've also suffered a lot. The skinny appearance was definitely starving, and later it was given to Xiao Jiaye, even the body was burned clean. Ham also understood, and it felt so pitiful for that sister. It needs to protect its sister and not let her get hurt. Jin Zhen felt aggrieved in his heart and said, Min Yin, please don't step so hard next time. My foot will be broken by you sooner or later. You first keep your mouth shut. Jin Zhen was unhappy and didn't speak, but was led by Zhai Wenying. Ham is not very interested in searching for supplies, and it always wants to go back to its previous position and pack those toys away. If it weren't for Zhai Wenying's promise to come back and drive to pick it up, there would definitely be other pet shops nearby, and it would just stay there. Walking to the target's doorstep, Jin Zhen skillfully opened the door with his gold-based abilities. This place must have been searched before, it's unlikely there's anything there. The Grain Bureau. How could the person who searched before have let this place go? Zhai Wenying came yesterday and learned that the Grain Bureau in this area is a newly established branch, which has not yet been officially listed to the public. Sleeping slot. There really is. I used to suffer a lot from not entering those big houses. Maybe there's something good inside. Once it was confirmed that there was indeed food, Jin Zhen immediately ran out to set off fireworks. Yan Jishuan, who had just relaxed due to this signal, lost one hand. If it weren't for some instincts, he might have been split in half by Wen Yanjing on the spot. Yan Jishuan dared not take it too far and used his ultimate move. When he pressed the button, several soldiers around him suddenly froze, their eyes suddenly changed, and they instantly became zombies, and they were also psychic zombies. When Jin Qizong and others were losing consciousness, Yan Jishuan quickly ran towards the parking spot and drove away. Today's update, end of this chapter.